Are Democrats coconut pilled?
No one can walk away. No one can walk away. We must stay in the fight. This fight to keep the light of America's promise and to ensure it burns bright. Well, this fight now, it continues with you.
We're not going to cooperate. We're not going to ask our police force to serve as ICE agents.
I'm going to do everything that I can to protect our undocumented immigrants. They're residents of our state.
I will fight you every step of the way.
If it's contrary to our values, we will fight to the death.
Why would Democrats want to, provide a sanctuary city for illegal immigrants and prioritize illegal over American citizens? I don't get it. But they've been doing this for years. I've been in the state legislature, then in Congress, and they keep prioritizing illegal immigrants over U.S. citizens.
President-elect Trump setting his sights on acquiring not just one, but multiple strategic locations, such as Greenland and the Panama Canal. Here with us now, Anthony Pompliano, professional capital management founder and CEO. And you say he should also be looking at buying as much Bitcoin as possible.
Are you kidding me, guys? Russia flat out rejects Trump's calls for a ceasefire in Ukraine, calling it a path to nowhere, while Kamala Harris's own former fundraiser is out here spilling the tea on her about $2.5 billion in wasted donor cash on Oprah, no less. Meanwhile, Putin's allies are waving around nuclear warnings like they're party favors, promising to defend their interests by any means necessary. I don't know, guys. That definitely sounds like a threat to me. And just when you think things can't get any crazier, guys, Trump's borders are a time home and is doubling down on bringing back family detention, while blue cities are digging in, vowing to fight deportations at every step. Oh, don't even get me started on the whole Bitcoin situation, all right? So the king of crypto that basically broke people better start paying attention to, because some advisors think that Trump should buy Bitcoin like it's Greenland. Guys, are we living in a digital gold rush or what? Like, let me know what you guys think. How are we supposed to freaking make sense of all this madness? By the way, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Let's go ahead and jump in here, guys. So Russia has outright dismissed Donald Trump's suggestion on a ceasefire in Ukraine, stating that such an approach is a path to nowhere. So Russian Foreign Minister Sergey Lavrov, he basically clarified on Thursday that really earlier today, just hours ago. In fact, this is breaking news, guys, that while Russia is open to improving relations with Trump's incoming administration, it's up to the United States to take the first step if it really wants to restore the dialogue. So Lavrov, he emphasized that the U.S. had broken off diplomatic discussions about basically after the conflict in the Ukraine began, referring to it as a special military operation. Now, Lavrov, who has also served as President Vladimir Putin's foreign minister for like over 2 decades, he said, quote, "If the signals from the new team in Washington are serious about restoring dialogue, we will respond. But the Americans should make the first move," end quote. Well, this is a little bit of a sobering moment here for America. We're hoping we can avoid World War III by any means necessary. I hope. We were promised during the campaign trail that Trump would be the only one to keep us from being in a World War III situation. So I'm really hopeful that that Trump can come through on this situation. But get this, guys. So Donald Trump is set to resume the U.S. presidency on January 20th on Inauguration Day, right? And basically, we all see him as a very highly skilled deal maker. And he promised to quickly end the war in the Ukraine, avoid a World War III situation, although he hasn't provided the exact specifics on how he would accomplish this. Now, I think it's probably a pretty wise situation not to detail all of the specifics, because if you lay out your whole hand, then your ability to negotiate won't be as strong. So that's not something that I would expect for Trump to share with us. However, Trump's approach does seem to center on brokering a peace agreement between Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelenskiy and Russian President Vladimir Putin. Now, recently, Trump's appointed Ukraine envoy, retired Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg, He suggested in a Fox News interview on December 18th that Trump's administration needs to prioritize dialogue. However, concrete details on the proposed strategy remain sparse. Now, the conflict between Russia and the Ukraine, which really actually began with Russia's 2022 invasion, has had catastrophic effects. It's affected our economy, including tens of thousands of deaths, the displacement of millions upon millions, and obviously a deepening rift between Moscow and the West. But this really actually kind of marks the most significant strain on the U.S.-Russia relations since the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962. And from Washington's perspective, Russia is viewed as a corrupt autocracy and a major threat to U.S. national security. Now, I do think that Tucker Carlson would actually have a completely different opinion on that. But we'll talk about Tucker Carlson and his interview with Russian President Vladimir Putin on a different video. But the U.S. accuses Russia of interfering in American elections, detaining U.S. citizens on fabricated charges, and undermining Western allies through sabotage. Now, on the other hand, Russian officials are arguing that, hey, the U.S. is in a declining global power and that that has continuously ignored Russia's interests since the Soviet Union's collapse in 1991. They also accused the U.S. of instigating internal discord within Russia for its own strategic gains. Last month, reports suggested that Vladimir Putin was open to discussing a potential ceasefire with Trump, but set firm conditions. Now, Putin ruled out pretty much any significant territorial concessions and insisted that Ukraine must abandon its aspirations to join NATO. Notably, Russia currently controls about 20% of Ukrainian territory.
Why?
Well, if you think about what he's trying to do here, right, is he's basically looking at strategic reasons to acquire physical property in order to advance the American ideals, ethos, and strategies. Well, what about the digital world? We live in a digital world. And so if you're going to go after the Panama Canal, there's obviously strategic reasons to do that. Greenland as well. Owning Bitcoin is digital real estate. There's only 21 million that will ever exist. We know other countries are mining, buying, holding Bitcoin. And so are we going to let these other countries be the leader, or are we going to be the leader?
But get this, guys. Linda Lee, a former top fundraiser for Vice President Kamala Harris, has made headlines, guys, after severing ties with the Democratic Party. In a very scathing critique, Lee accused Kamala Harris's campaign of misusing donor funds and prioritizing wealthy individuals like Oprah Winfrey over transparency and accountability. I thought Kamala Harris was telling us that she was for the people, but it sounds like she was looking out for wealthy donors like Oprah Winfrey. What's up with that? So Lindy Lee, who has previously raised millions upon millions of dollars for Kamala Harris's failed presidential campaign, she basically voiced her frustrations during an interview with Fox News. So she basically claimed that the campaign exhibited gross financial mismanagement, stating that they essentially set $2.5 billion on fire. Can you believe this, guys? Now, according to Lee, the funds came from two different sources. $1.5 billion was raised directly by the campaign, and an additional $1 billion directly through the super PAC Future Forward. Now, despite the staggering amount of money that was raised, Lee criticized the lack of accountability, essentially alleging that the donors still have no clear explanation as to where the money went. Some people wondering, did this money end up in some people's pockets? And so the theories are going wild at this point. I'll just put it to you like that. But Lee specifically called out a $2.5 million payment to Oprah Winfrey's production company, questioning why a billionaire like Oprah couldn't cover those costs herself. Now, I got to say, Oprah traditionally has contributed to the Democratic Party. So first of all, she's getting paid when normally she contributes. Like, that's the first red flag. Quote, she's an oligarch. She could have just covered the production costs, end quote. That's what Lee said. So basically, she also kind of like ridiculed the decision to spend $450,000 projecting Kamala Harris's face onto a Las Vegas digital sphere. You know, that huge brand new sphere in Las Vegas. Anyway, calling it an utter failure. It did nothing to help Kamala Harris's campaign. And I gotta agree. I saw that big sphere. We were in Vegas not too long ago, and no one's making their voting decision based on what shows up on that big ball. I'm sorry. Now, Lindy Lee, she revealed some additional spending that she believes really underscores the campaign's wastefulness, including $500,000 paid to civil rights activist Al Sharpton right before he interviewed Kamala Harris. Now, according to Lee, these expenditures only reinforce her disillusionment with Kamala Harris's leadership and the Democratic Party as a whole. After publicly breaking away from the Democratic Party, Lee says that she faced intense backlash, including online harassment, and that she was described as, basically psychological terrorism. Now, she also accused the party of resorting to public shaming tactics in order to discredit her. Wait, you're not telling me that the Democratic Party would resort to such tactics like, public shaming? No, you don't say. I mean, heaven forbid you cross the line and leave the cult. I can't imagine the Democratic Party attacking you over that. Strong sarcasm, of course, right? Now, of course, despite this, Lee hinted at a potential political shift, revealing that she has already been contacted by someone from Donald Trump's team. Quote, they've been incredibly gracious, end quote, she noted, adding that their kindness stood in stark contrast to her treatment by the Democratic Party. It's amazing. It's like the Democratic Party is losing all their top talent, going over to the Republican side. It seems, or at least it seems that way. We also heard from John Fetterman not too long ago. Certainly seems like he's at least not trying to attack Donald Trump. But while Lee did not confirm any specific plans, Lee teased the possibility of attending Donald Trump's inauguration, signaling a dramatic turn in her political affiliations. So what do you think on that? Did the Democrats just lose another key member from their party, like unofficially? Let me know your thoughts, guys. Hit the like button if you guys are just now joining the live. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for hitting the like button and subscribing. And also, I want to thank you guys so much for sharing these videos. I really do appreciate the support, y'all.
Cute. Linda Lee, she's the DNC Mid-Atlantic Regional Chair. How you doing? Thanks for coming back here, and good morning to you. You set things off when you talked about $1 billion disaster based on that campaign. Here's Kamala Harris in D.C. on Tuesday of this week. Watch.
No one can walk away. No one can walk away. We must stay in the fight. This fight to keep the light of America's promise and to ensure it burns bright. Well, this fight now, it continues with you.
She had more to say then. Yvette Lewis, you might know her, member of the DNC executive panel, said, I'd be on board 100% with whatever she decides to do. I think she's a phenomenal person. I think she's got a phenomenal candidate. We're able to turn things around so quickly, and that's a testament to her. Well, based on your comments, you're about a 180 on that. So where are you on this future?
Thank you for having me.
Sure.
This is not what America wants. November 5th was a decisive defeat for the Democratic Party. She lost every single swing state. It wasn't a squeaker like it was in 2016. This was a resounding defeat. And right now, Kamala Harris is indulging in delusions of running for governor of California, possibly in 2026, or even president again in 2028. America has said this is not what we don't want to be coconut pilled. We do not want Kamala Harris. We don't want failed border policies. And I feel like I'm liberated and I can finally tell the truth that the Democrats completely failed on the border. Title 42 was a tremendous mistake, and no one is willing to say that. And you shouldn't be called bigoted or racist because you want strong borders for the United States. And you should be able to say that the economy was ailing under the Biden-Harris administration, that price hikes did indeed happen, but they denied that for the first 3 years of the administration. And when they finally did something, it was too late.
So the future of cryptocurrency is actually becoming a very critical conversation at this point. And Anthony Pompliano, he's a leading voice in the crypto world, and he's urging Americans to pay very close attention, especially those who feel financially strapped, okay? Pompliano believes Bitcoin is digital real estate, and could play a transformative role in shaping America's strategic and economic future. But more importantly, here's why he and you think broke people especially should be taking this very, very seriously. So as Donald Trump considers bold acquisitions like Greenland and the Panama Canal to secure America's strategic interests, Pompliano argues that the focus shouldn't just be on physical assets. He says we live in a digital world. Now, Bitcoin is digital real estate. If we let other countries dominate this space, they will become the leaders and not us. So this statement essentially rings alarm bells while nations like China are mining and they're holding Bitcoin aggressively. America risks falling behind in this digital revolution. Now, for broke individuals, this is a wake-up call. In a world where transactional investments feel so out of reach, Bitcoin actually offers an opportunity to participate in a groundbreaking shift in how wealth and value are stored. Missing out now, it could mean being left behind as the digital real estate appreciates in value. And so why broke people really need to pay attention, Pompliano addressed a very critical concern: the hesitation to invest because Bitcoin has already seen massive price swings, right? In 1999, buying the S&P 500 was scary, he said, right? But in hindsight, those who actually did buy into the S&P 500, they're looked at as being geniuses now, right? And so essentially he's making the connection that similarly, Bitcoin's past volatility really shouldn't scare you away from its potential future. And Pompliano also emphasized today it's probably the second best time to buy Bitcoin because the actual best time to buy Bitcoin was yesterday, he said.
Well, Linda, you're now hearing from some Democrats who are singing a tune that's similar to yours. And I don't know where they were before the election or whether or not the smelling salts are working now. But Rah Emanuel is one of them. Let me just read you what he's writing about, okay? He talks about with inflation stinging, school absenteeism skyrocketing, and students' academic scores plummeting, Democrats consume themselves in debates over pronouns, bathroom access, and renaming schools, and adopted terms such as care economy and Latinx to win over voters. It was a hermetically sealed conversation with ourselves, and we appeared much as we sounded, distant and detached. Where were those voices pre-election day?
Afraid of being canceled, because the cancel culture in the Democratic Party, and I experienced it this week when I said there was a stench of loser hanging over the Democratic Party. You know what they called me? The W word, the C word. I lost tens of thousands of followers because I dared to tell the truth. Because in a cult, you can't tell the truth. You can't ask any questions. But I'm done with that. But he's totally right. And I'm probably going to get canceled again for what I'm about to say. Men are men and women are women. And it's an issue when men are trouncing women in women's sports. This should not be a controversial take. This is common sense. And the American people understand that the Democratic Party, they exist in their ivory towers that are so far removed from reality. And these ridiculous wars are not what Americans care about. We care about bread and butter issues. We care about putting food on the table, sending our kids to school, strong borders, not having millions of people rush through the border. And I'm a naturalized immigrant myself. So this is, and just because you care about these issues doesn't make you sexist or racist.
It's going to get worse and worse. And so I do think...
I hear you. It's just hard to pull the trigger.
Of course, and that's true of all financial assets, right? I mean, think of a real estate market. People will go and they'll say, oh, my God, I could have bought 5 years ago. Now it's at this price. I just can't wrap my head around that. Well, if you wait 5 more years, the dollar is going to continue to be devalued. And so usually if you decide, hey, I want to own something, go ahead and buy it.
Anthony, crypto investors and crypto companies are obviously very excited about a Trump presidency. We now know that Coinbase, Kraken, Ripple, and MoonPay have all donated money to the Trump-Vance inauguration. What does the Trump-Vance time in office over the next 4 years, what has that done to the trajectory of where Bitcoin could go?
Well, I think about 50% of the value they bring to the table has already been captured because really it was just awakening America to this idea that technology is good, business is good, free markets are good, capitalism is good. Bitcoin is the most free market asset that we have. And so out of nowhere, we went from a world where I think a lot of people were saying, hey, is the future actually brighter than the past? To now they're saying, oh, wait a second, we are going to put business-oriented people into the White House and into the administration. Let's go, right? And so you hear things like it's morning in America, people saying it's time to build, et cetera. Now, what I do think is interesting about these businesses is it's actually showing not that crypto is different, it's that crypto companies are the same as non-crypto companies. If you look at Amazon and Facebook and many others, they're also donating $1 million to this inauguration fund. And so it used to be a world where there was kind of like the adults in the room and then the crypto little kids were playing kind of in the corner. But now all of a sudden you're realizing that these crypto companies are showing up and they're saying, look, we are no different than these big multi-billion dollar, $100 billion companies. We also are going to donate. We have a seat at the table. And so it's really crypto growing up more than it is these other people.
He has to create a strategic Bitcoin reserve or else they turn on him?
I do think that that is a potential risk. And so, look, if you look at the administration, Trump owns Bitcoin and crypto. J.D. Vance owns Bitcoin, I believe. There's a lot of people in the administration. You just go through all the different roles that they've appointed people. And so these are Bitcoiners to a degree, or crypto holders that are going into the office. They're likely to go ahead and buy.
Well, they're going to get criticized for that.
They may get criticized for it, but also if you look at it right now, what is the United States doing? We're buying bonds. We're holding other assets. We have a president that's currently in office and also politicians who are literally day trading assets. Yep. And so it's no different, right? I think the big story of 2025 is going to be that crypto has now grown up and is part of the traditional financial system. And there's pros and cons to that. But now we have a seat at the table. You saw that in the political arena in terms of donations and influence. But you also now are going to see it in the financial arena. And that is going to be a huge tailwind, I think, for Bitcoin and crypto in 2025.
But yeah, for anybody who's struggling financially, this perspective really does matter. Like even a small investment as little as 2% of your disposable income could theoretically grow exponentially. And it's really about planting a seed now in order to reap the benefits later. Like think of Bitcoin as like an entry ticket to a wealth revolution, right? One where those with limited means could actually finally gain a foothold. But why this matters now, Pompliano is warning that countries already investing heavily in Bitcoin are essentially positioning themselves as digital leaders. And if the U.S. fails to act, if the United States fails to act, we are literally like risking losing economic dominance, which could trickle down to everyday people through fewer opportunities, a weaker currency value, and increased economic disparity. I mean, we already got a taste of inflation. It could get a lot worse. I mean, for broke individuals, this is not just a national issue. It's actually quite personal. Falling behind in the Bitcoin game, it could mean like missing a chance to grow your financial freedom while others, including nations and big corporations, end up profiting. So basically, Pompliano's analogy is it's simple, but it's powerful, right? And so basically, Bitcoin is kind of like owning a prime piece of land in a digital world. Just as real estate appreciates over time, Bitcoin's scarcity ensures that its value is likely to grow. With only 21 million Bitcoins ever to exist, the longer you wait, the harder and the more expensive it'll be to be able to claim your stake, if that makes sense, right? So for somebody who's without very much money, even a small amount invested now could theoretically secure a piece of this limited digital property before the costs skyrocket even further. Now, for those who are worried about risk, Pompliano is essentially advising starting small, investing some money that you're willing to lose, similar to how you would approach any other high potential opportunities, right? But the point is not to gamble, but to kind of like position yourself in a way that you could fundamentally change your financial future. So anyway, in a world that's increasingly dominated by digital assets, Bitcoin isn't just a trend. It's kind of a shift in how wealth is being created and stored. And for broke people, paying attention now could literally mean breaking free from financial struggles later and not being broke in the future. Pompliano also put waiting will only make it worse. So if you've ever wanted a shot at financial freedom, this might just be it. Now, I want to be honest with you guys. I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Anyone who is interested in investing in Bitcoin or any other investment for that matter should definitely seek the counsel of a investment professional. I am not an advisor for you guys. So just wanted to share that little tidbit with you guys.
Why would Democrats want to, provide a sanctuary city for illegal immigrants and prioritize illegal over American citizens? I don't get it, but they've been doing this for years. I've been in the state legislature, then in Congress, and they keep prioritizing illegal immigrants over U.S. citizens. It's a real head scratcher. I don't get it.
So far, at least 6 blue cities so far have strengthened their sanctuary laws since Trump's election win. Incoming border czar Tom Homan has a simple warning for all those jurisdictions: get out of the way. But of course, some Democrats are digging in.
We're not going to cooperate. We're not going to ask our police force to serve as ICE agents.
I'm going to do everything that I can to protect our undocumented immigrants. They're residents of our state.
I will fight you every step of the way.
If it's contrary to our values, we will fight to the death.
Would the Massachusetts State Police assist in mass deportations?
No, absolutely not. We are not cooperating with those efforts that actually threaten the safety of everyone by causing widespread fear.
Texas Republican Congresswoman Beth Van Dyne, a member of the Ways and Means and Small Business Committees, joins me now. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you for having me on.
I want to talk about this program 287 because clearly this is the wave of the future. This should be enacted in every single state. Mass deportations are going to be hard enough, but a lot of those that are being deported are criminals, and they are repeat criminals. So this means that if there is a criminal, an illegal immigrant that's in jail, that illegal immigrant is not going to be re-released into the public so that they can continue to commit crimes. They will be handed over to ICE, even somebody who commits a DUI. It doesn't have to be a violent crime. You commit a crime, you go to ICE, you go back to your country. What is wrong with that? Why would any Democrat want to promote allowing these illegal immigrant criminals to go back onto the streets to reoffend?
And we just saw them, too. We just saw my Democrat colleagues all vote against having people who are here who are getting stopped for things like DUI go back. We just had a vote on that recently in Congress. The question is, why? I can't answer that. I've had experience with this personally when I was mayor, when I was on the city council. I was a big supporter of 287G. We actually created a program in my city of Irving, Texas, where we worked partnership with ICE, with Immigration and Customs Enforcement. When you have your local enforcement, your law enforcement agents, your local police working with federal law enforcement agents, it's the best partnership. Democrats, you've tried it your way. You've seen what's happened. You have seen women who have been, put on fire in your subways. You have seen mobs who have taken over apartment complexes. You have seen murders. You've seen rapes. You've seen beatings of police officers. We've tried it your way. Why don't you try enforcing the law? Why don't you try working with law and federal law enforcement in protecting your citizens? It works. We had a lot of criticism when I did it in Irving, Texas. And the fact is, what we saw was the lowest crime rates our city has ever had. Yeah. We became the 5th city in the country. And far from people wanting to move, people wanted to move in. And I am all supportive of Tom Homan and working with him. I have sent out a letter to mayors in my district saying, we want to teach you more about this partnership. We want you to have the resources that you need. We're going to be having roundtables. We're probably going to invite Tom to come and see if he wants to address any of our mayors or local law enforcement to tell them how to do it better. This is what Republicans, this is what Democrats in these representative cities should be doing.
This is something that both Republicans and Democrats should be doing for the American people. This is what any New Yorker would want to see done. I mean, the crime rate in these cities are astronomical, especially since the pandemic. And a lot of these cities that are Democratic cities just continue to welcome the crime by busing in and allowing illegal immigrants to live for free in hotels. It's got to stop.
Tom Homan, President-elect Donald Trump's newly appointed border czar, has confirmed plans to reinstate a controversial immigration policy involving the detention of families with children. So Tom Homan, who previously served as the director of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, also known as ICE, during both the Obama's administration and Trump's first term essentially explained that this policy is aiming to address illegal immigration while maintaining public confidence in the system. So, in an interview with the Wall Street Journal, Tom Homan, he outlined his intention to bring back family detention centers as a part of the administration's immigration strategy. So he argued that individuals entering the U.S. illegally and having children while doing so, they bear the responsibility for their circumstances. He said, quote, "You know you were in our country illegally and you chose to have a child. So you put your family in that position," end quote. That's coming from Tom Homan. What do you guys think about that? What do you guys think about Tom Homan's stance? They came into the country illegally. They had a child here, and ultimately they have put themselves into the situation that they're in. Let me know, guys. What do you think? Now, Tom Homan has also stated that building on expanding family detention facilities would be necessary to accommodate this policy. Essentially, he also highlighted and emphasized that the scale of this effort would depend on data about immigration trends and the availability of resources. Balancing enforcement with public perception, Homan really stressed the importance of enforcing immigration laws while trying to maintain public trust. Quote, "We need to show the American people that we can do this and not be inhumane about it," end quote. He also acknowledged essentially the challenges of balancing effective enforcement with humane treatment, saying we can't lose the faith of the American people. Now, Tom Homan, he's no stranger to tough immigration enforcement. Back in 2012, under his leadership at ICE, the agency deported over 400,000 individuals, marking the highest number in U.S. history. Now, while he did not commit to specific deportation targets this time, Tom Homan emphasized that his goals would depend on the resources that are available to increase ICE's capacity. Quote, "I will be setting myself up for disappointment if I were to promise a specific number," end quote. So anyway, to kind of support the effort, to support the increased focus on deportations, Trump and his advisors have proposed deploying National Guard troops. So Tom Homan clarified that these troops would not conduct arrests, but would assist with essentially logistics such as transportation and other support roles. Quote, "I don't see this thing as being, sweeps and the military going through neighborhoods," end quote. Tom Homan assured, adding that immigration enforcement would be targeted and would be focused on individuals with criminal records. Now, as President-elect Donald Trump prepares to implement stricter immigration policies, several Democratic leaders and cities are now stepping up their efforts to resist these challenges, these changes, especially deportation plans. So this growing resistance is actually focused on strengthening sanctuary laws and creating resources to support immigrant communities. Ellen Rosenblum, the Attorney General of Oregon, is spearheading efforts to bolster sanctuary policies in the state. She has announced the creation of a sanctuary toolkit, which kind of aims to educate residents about Oregon's laws that protect immigrants. The toolkit will provide guidance on how state laws should basically shield undocumented immigrants from federal immigration enforcement and will serve as a resource to those who are looking to understand their rights and their protections under these policies. Now, I got to ask you guys, do you think that these sanctuary cities and some of these states that are not supporting Trump should be doing this? Like they're essentially breaking federal law and disregarding the president of the United States of America. So let me know your thoughts, guys. Governor Gavin Newsom of California's immigrant support plan in California is reportedly developing a program that's called Immigrant Support Plan, and it aims to assist individuals who might be at risk of deportation. So this initiative is designed to connect immigrants and their families with essential resources such as legal services, such as schools, and of course, community programs. Now, Gavin Newsom's plan, it just kind of highlights a commitment that he has for supporting what he deems, what he's calling vulnerable populations in the face of stricter federal enforcement measures. isn't Governor Gavin Newsom like an accomplice now? Like it seems like, wouldn't that make him like aiding in like criminal activity? Because these people are in the country illegally and he's trying to protect them. So I'm just saying that's definitely what it sounds like to me. But across the country, Democratic-led cities and states are strengthening sanctuary policies to limit their cooperations with federal immigration authorities. By the way, guys, if you're just now joining the live, I really appreciate y'all being here. Thank you so much for taking a second and clicking the like button and subscribing to the channel. Totally appreciate you guys. But yeah, these policies are intended to protect undocumented immigrants from deportation by restricting the sharing of information or collaboration with federal agencies like Immigration and Customs Enforcement, also known as ICE. Now, while Democrats are ramping up their resistance to Trump's new policies, Republican leaders, particularly those in border states, have criticized sanctuary policies as undermining federal law enforcement efforts. For example, Republican Congresswoman Debbie Lesko from Arizona has expressed strong opposition to sanctuary cities, arguing that some of these policies hinder the enforcement of immigration laws and they compromise public safety. So, yeah, it's crazy, guys. Now, Russian Foreign Minister Sergey Lavrov, he's a longtime ally of President Vladimir Putin, has issued a stark warning about Russia's potential use of nuclear weapons. We're talking nukes, guys. This is alarming. We're trying to avoid a World War III situation. Hopefully, Trump can help the United States and all of the other surrounding nations around the world to avoid World War III. But Lavrov stated that Russia will defend its national interests by any means necessary, essentially emphasizing the country's willingness to respond forcefully if its resolve is tested. So this warning, it just kind of like shines a spotlight on Moscow's stance on safeguarding its security amid these escalating tensions within the West. So throughout the ongoing conflict in Ukraine, Russia has frequently reminded the West of its nuclear capabilities. Basically, hey guys, we got nukes, don't mess with us, right? So with the world's largest nuclear stockpile, Russia holds approximately 90% of the global nuclear arsenal alongside the United States. So this immense nuclear stockpile really just kind of underscores the high stakes of any kind of potential escalation between Moscow and any of the Western nations like the US, which has been a major backer of Ukraine. So if we go back just a little bit, back in November, Putin revised Russia's nuclear doctrine, lowering the threshold for deploying nuclear weapons. Under the updated policy, Russia could respond with nuclear weapons even to a conventional attack from a country supported by a nuclear-armed nation. This should raise the hairs on everyone's backs right now, right? So this change theoretically places Ukraine at risk since the U.S. has provided substantial military and logistical support to Kiev. So World War III is we've never been this close to World War III. I'll just put it to you guys like that. Now, speaking on Russian television, Sergey Lavrov, he claimed that Moscow does not seek to heighten the risks of a nuclear conflict. That's what he says, even though it doesn't seem that way. According to Lavrov, Russia remains committed to the principle that there are no winners in a nuclear war. However, he cautioned other nations against testing Russia's commitment to protecting its national interests, warning of the potential consequences. Now, Lavrov also blamed Western countries for keeping the dialogue about nuclear weapons alive. He argued that Russia has never initiated such discussions. Instead, Lavrov pointed to Russia's historical efforts to promote the principle that nuclear war should never occur, citing the 1980s Gorbachev-Reagan formula. The principle, he said, was reaffirmed by Putin and U.S. President Joe Biden and later supported by the 5 permanent members of the U.S. nation's Security Council. So Lavrov further accused NATO member countries of making provocative statements about their nuclear capabilities. He even insisted that any discussions of nuclear strategies or conflicts have come exclusively from Western nations and not from Moscow. So basically, look, they're saying, Russia's saying, if anything, it's the West that's drumming up all this nuclear conversation and not Russia. So Lavrov maintained that Russia's acting defensively in response to what it perceives to be an aggressive rhetoric and actions from the West. So this rhetoric from Lavrov really kind of highlights the increasing tense geopolitical environment that we're in right now. With Putin's updated nuclear doctrine and Lavrov's warning, Russia is signaling its readiness to act decisively if it perceives a threat to its national security. So I don't know, guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I'm going to keep you guys updated on all that is going on right now. There's a lot going on. And hopefully Joe Biden doesn't do anything crazy between now and January 20th when Donald Trump enters the White House into the Oval Office again on Inauguration Day. Hopefully Biden doesn't get us, put us in a situation where we're walking into World War III before Trump takes over. Anyway, drop me some comments, guys. Let me know your thoughts. I really appreciate you guys sharing these videos. You guys are absolutely awesome. Check out my previous videos, and I'll see you guys next time.